Yeah, Warriors, we're taking it down. Raise your voices and stare at this town. We're the champions of craft beer sport. Tolkien Audio, we hold down the fort.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside episode 1495 of the Tall Can Audio podcast. Matt Robinson along with you as always. Third one of these in a row where it's just me. I apologize for that. It's just you and me here today. There will be a new episode, as I've mentioned over the last couple, on Monday. Rob will be back in here for the first time in a couple weeks, back in studio, and we'll no doubt get his take on a lot of the stuff that's gone on here around the NHL, plus some Blue Jays spring training. We'll see what else is in the news at the time. But in the meantime, I just wanted to get out a couple more thoughts on the NHL Trade Deadline. In case you missed it, episode 1493 we released on Friday evening. That was, just what the Ottawa Senators did. And then a little later on Friday evening, episode 1494, about what the Toronto Maple Leafs did on Trade Deadline Day. So this will be everybody else. And believe me, we are not going to go trade for trade, every little move that was made, every transaction. And we may even miss a couple of the bigger ones. These are just sort of some first blush thoughts, things that stand out to me, things I took a couple little notes on throughout Trade Deadline Day that I wanted to get out and share with you. But before we do that, as always, we'll have one more pint here in this particular recording session before we get into some of these other teams, perhaps appropriately, and perhaps because I set it up this way. This is one more porter. It is from the Publican House Brewery in Peterborough called the Broken Record Porter. You know, because it's been just me for 3 episodes, like a broken record. Oh, God, Matt, you're so clever. You're so clever. I'll be honest with you. I'm sort of up and down on Publican House. They've been around for a while. I don't really remember ever really disliking anything they've put together, but most of what they do often comes off as kind of forgettable to me. So we'll see what this one's all about, because I have not had this one before. Like I said, the Broken Record Porter from Publican House. Yeah, I don't know. It's all right. It's got kind of a dark chocolate thing to it that I like, but it's sort of thin or something. Like it's lacking a little body or something, which is difficult for a porter because they're kind of thick naturally. And maybe it's unfair. Those of you who've been here for the last few of these, I had another porter on episode 1494, which I recorded just a couple hours ago. And that was a chocolate peanut butter porter, which was very sweet and right up my alley. So maybe it's unfair to ask anything to follow this, certainly another porter, but that's what we're rolling with here today. It's fine. And like I said, I do like some dark chocolate, and this definitely kind of has that to it and a little bit of roastiness. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad beer, but I'm not necessarily like over the moon about it, I suppose is how I would. And like I said a few minutes ago, that's not uncommon for me with Publican House. I think it's fine, most of what they do, but it's not particularly memorable usually, at least in my opinion. Look, this may come off as a little odd, and I'm not sure why this stands out to me as a place to lead off, because we saw some big things happen. We saw Colorado retool. We saw Dallas make a huge splash. The Bruins just unloaded half of their roster across the Atlantic Division. There's some big names here and some big moves to talk about. And yet the thing that seems to come to mind to me first, the Vancouver are kind of losers. And I don't really understand what the Canucks were going for here at all. And I'm not sure they really know. They ended up in this horrible situation where apparently JT Miller and Elias Pettersson just could not grow up and play with each other. So somebody's got to get dealt. They decide it's JT Miller. Off he goes. He's playing fine in New York. The Rangers are in a tough spot. They're not dead and buried yet, but they may hang around. But he's playing fine in New York. Played fine at the Four Nations face-off. And Vancouver decides to keep Elias Pettersson. And he is not playing fine. He didn't play fine before the Four Nations. He did not play fine at the Four Nations, and he hasn't been playing fine since. So obviously you dealt the wrong guy. You hope that maybe this season is a write-off and he gets going again moving forward. We'll see. but they're still right in it. I believe as we sit here and record this on Friday night, they are 1 point back of Calgary for the final wild card spot, but they're in a bit of a race here. St. Louis has climbed back in. We'll see what's going to happen. And they couldn't decide what they wanted to do. They trade away Carson Soucy. And look, that's probably where you should go if I'm being real with this team. Could they squeak in? Yeah. Does anyone believe this is their year and they're going deep again? No. Then probably just unload. We have seen teams do that before. It's not common, but it probably is smart. But they pumped the brakes on it. Everyone thought we would see Brock Besser go on trade deadline day, and we didn't. And that particular file in Vancouver has quite the history. He wanted out of Vancouver, and then he was willing to stay, and then he sort of came to terms with, okay, I guess I'll get traded at the deadline, and now he's not getting traded at the deadline. And do they circle back and manage to lock him up? Are they trying to still take a run this year? Quinn Hughes was out, he comes back, and then he's out again. We don't know what Demko is. I don't really know where they're going. And so once they decided to get rid of Carson Soucy, you should have traded Brock Besser. And even if the return wasn't quite what you wanted, you should have. I sort of have time for the idea you can't totally cave on your price, but you're going nowhere this year. And you don't know if you're going to be able to re-sign this guy because he's been in and out, right? Like I said, he's asked for a trade before. Just because he's rescinded that request here for the last little bit doesn't mean he's particularly committed to what you're trying to do. They needed to deal that guy. And before we get into any of these other big deals, the other one that I would say came up short, I would stop short of calling these guys a loser, but I think stopped short based on what the rest of the West did. That's Edmonton. The defending Western Conference champions, I like Jake Woolman. I think he's underappreciated. I think he's underknown. Is that a word? Is that a term? I don't think people are as familiar with him as they could be. He played in Detroit, but wasn't one of their big names. He gets dealt to San Jose. They flip him in a nice move to send him off to Edmonton. I think that's going to fit. I think that's a nice move for Edmonton. But when you look at what Dallas did, and when you look at what Colorado did, I don't know, guys. Edmonton needed to find a way to come up with more than that, even if it was nothing more than a little insurance in goal. And I know that's what Oiler fans have been calling out for. Stan Bowman made it sound like he thinks their goaltending is fine. I don't know. It was good enough to get them to the final last year. But if you recall, Pickard played games in the playoffs last year. It wasn't like Stuart Skinner was this playoff stud, this money goalie once it got going. So they needed to do something else. And they did not, while making a good trade for Woolman. And actually, I like the Trent Frederick move for them as well. But I don't think they kept pace with what the other big dogs in the West did. And one of those big dogs, boy, was Dallas. And look, there was a case to be made, maybe, that they were already the best team in the NHL. Certainly the most balanced. You think about how good they've been, even with Heiskanen out of the lineup, and knowing he's coming back. They end up being the guys who pounce on this Mikko Rantanen thing. And Thursday night was kind of crazy. I'm trying to go to bed. I'm trying to fall asleep for whatever reason over the last week or two. I haven't slept for shit. So I toss and turn, and then I reach over and pick up my phone, and that part's my fault, obviously. Now I'm up for a bit. And Thursday night, it's not uncommon where the night before the NHL trade deadline, shit starts to pop off. And so whatever time it would have been, 11:30 or midnight, I reach out, grab my phone again, and I see the Brock Nelson deal to Colorado, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. And you're kind of like, oh, wow. And you're like scrolling through. What does that mean? You're checking out their cap space and how their lineup might come together, all these things. And I put my phone down, and I toss and turn for another 20 or 30 minutes. I'm still wide awake. So I reach out and I grab my phone again like an asshole. And Friedman's like, yeah, the Rantanen thing might be going down. Carolina and Dallas are talking. By all accounts, the framework of a deal is in place. It's just a question of whether Rantanen will sign the extension before getting dealt, and he hadn't committed to that yet. And I scrolled and refreshed a couple times, like, I gotta sleep. So I put it down. I wake up in the morning, and it sounds like that's fallen apart. And, he's still in Carolina, still open to staying through. Well, they're still open to keeping him through the deadline. They're taking offers from other teams. And it's not too long into the day before you hear, no, this is getting done. It sounds like the offer was take it or leave it from Dallas. We'll give you 8 years, $12 million. And he initially said no. And they said, well, then see ya. Now, they're a tax-free state, right? In Texas, that's worth keeping in mind. In Colorado, by all accounts, and this would make me feel kind of shitty if I'm Colorado, they offered him 12.5 or something like that over 8 years, and he said no. Carolina also offered him somewhere in the neighborhood between 12 and 13 over 8 years once he got traded there. He said no, and then he gets the offer from Dallas, and initially he says no, and then circles back and says yes. And I wonder if the big difference is the tax-free thing, the amount of money. Now, also, Dallas is a great team. Now, Colorado is a great team. Carolina is a really good team. He would have contributed there and had a chance to win if he had stayed in Colorado or stayed in Carolina. But for whatever reason, he chose Dallas. Maybe he has a favorite, Finn. He likes Rupe Hintz just a little bit more than he likes Sebastian Aho. I don't know. But that was interesting to see that he had turned down these other contenders and then sight unseen. Like, if part of the thing was that he wasn't comfortable in Carolina yet, I haven't been here that long. I'm not sure if I'd be comfortable. I'm going to need some time to think about it. Well, you'd been there 6 weeks. You haven't been to Dallas at all, other than a visiting player. I'm like, fuck it, I'll go. So this is a huge move for Dallas. Like, just already the best team in the league. You go out and you get that done. It's a big price. You certainly wouldn't have paid it for Rantanen as a rental. Rantanen. You wouldn't have done that. But now that you've got him locked up for 8 years, okay, it's Logan Stankoven, 2 firsts and 2 thirds. That is a monstrosity of a price to pay. But you immediately become, if you weren't already the favorite in the West, the prohibitive favorite in the West. Like, Dallas, if healthy, will be easily my pick to come out of the West this year. Carolina comes off in this. I wanted to cut them some slack. I really did. And I'll tell you why. Like, they went to the well last year for Jake Gensel. That was the big guy. That was the big score. We're going to bring him in. We're going to get this done. He's going to be our guy, and we are going to take a run at this. And it doesn't work out. They offer him a monstrous contract, and he decides, no, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to Tampa. I'm going to replace Steven Stamkos there. Tampa's a great organization. Lots of guys like to go there. Florida's a nice place to live. It's a tax-free state, all of these things. And I really appreciated that Carolina was not towed down by that. They were like, okay, next time up, who's the next big guy? Rantanen. Go get him. We're bringing him in. We'll take a run. We'll convince him to stay. We'll show him what a great organization we have. And they trade Marty Necas to get that done. Jack Drury. It's just a depth piece. And now, man, he's going to be part of some tremendous depth in Colorado. We'll get to them in a couple minutes. But it's sort of like this stick-to-itiveness, this we believe in what we're doing, and we're just one piece away. And they go out and they get him early, and they just can't get him to commit. And I don't blame him for that. He was blindsided by being traded out of Colorado. When he gets there, they're on the road. Then he's gone for a week or two or whatever it is to the Four Nations. He's only been there for a couple of home games. They're like, we would like you to commit right now for 8 years. And he's just like, I'm not ready to do it. That's fine. He has that right. And so Carolina, I think if I was them, I don't know. Maybe you don't feel like you have the cards if he's not fully committed. I think I would have kept him and said, look, we did this last year with Gensel. We went all in. Our guys aren't getting any younger. We're going to do this, and we will hope that he changes his mind after he's been here for a while. He's seen our community. He's been part of a playoff run. Hopefully we've had some success. We can talk this guy into staying. I think that's what I would have done. But I don't blame them when they shopped around and said, if he's not staying, maybe this just isn't our year. It's not working out. We can get Stankoven 2 firsts and 2 thirds to kind of retool on the fly here. It's a big deal. I guess I get it. So I don't want to call them losers for trading him, but there is a PR loss here for sure. I mentioned Gensel, comes in, sees what you got, and goes, nah, I'm out of here. Rantanen comes in, sees what you got, goes, nah, I'm not staying. And the final burr in that saddle, that final slap in the face of indignity is that, and again, excuse isn't right. Rantanen gets to do what he wants. He's a free agent. Like, he's earned this. But he's saying to you, I'm not comfortable yet. I haven't seen enough yet. I can't commit to you for 8 years. They phone him on Thursday night, say, would you do it in Dallas? He's like, let me talk to them. I don't like their deal. And then turns around and he decides, I still don't love the deal they're offering, but yeah, I'll go. So you've been here for 6 weeks. That wasn't enough. You've been to Dallas, not at all, other than overnight now and then. And you're like, yeah, fuck it, I'll go. I think that hurts Carolina. I think they're probably still the best team in the Metro. When you look at Jack Hughes being injured, Columbus is a nice story and they're on the come. It looks like they're going to get in. I'm not maybe Washington gets on a bit of a run here, but I don't love their group either. So maybe Carolina, even after all of this, is still the best team in the Metro. But this is a bad look for their fans, a bad look for their organization, a bad look PR-wise, and it does cost them. They don't have Marty Necas even now and Drury, right, to help you in this playoff run. I don't want to call them a loser for taking a big swing because I love that they tried it again. But there is no way around the fact that this was a tough look coming out of it. In that same division as Dallas, we talked about Colorado. And I got the feeling that maybe I was higher on what Colorado was trying to do than most people. I think a lot of people thought, you're trading Rantanen for Necas and Drury. And even then, if it had been just that, I would have said, you're trying to get out of this super high-end, we just have 3 top-end guys and then a bunch of guys, right? When it was McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar. You're like, no, we need to balance this out a little bit more. So we're getting rid of Rantanen, but we get Necas, who is a perfectly fine top-line player, but not close to the level of Rantanen. And we're getting Drury to come play third-line center. So we have spread out our depth a little more. Even with that, and I knew there'd be more, I didn't know it would be this good, but I sort of appreciated the idea this hasn't worked in a while, right? We don't have Kadri anymore. Landeskog is hurt. Like their depth has been chipped away out. We got to find a new way to spread out our tools a little bit. So that Rantanen move was the first step towards it. And holy shit, have they gone since then and turned that into magic. As I mentioned on Thursday night late, it sort of sounds like it was only Thursday that the Islanders decided for sure they were going to deal Brock Nelson. So you sort of think maybe they'll give it some time. Lou will collect all his offers and then make a move on Friday. As I said, I checked my phone around 12 during whatever bout of insomniac hell I'm going through, and it's done. Brock Nelson to Colorado for Cal Ritchie and a first, and there's a couple other pieces floating around in that. But as I've said on here for a while, Brock Nelson was the guy I was hoping the Leafs would go get. They didn't have a Cal Ritchie. They couldn't match that. I don't know whether they would have if they could have, but they just didn't have it. And so all of a sudden, you're looking at McKinnon, Brock Nelson, and Casey Middlestat, and now Drury, who you've got as part of that Necas deal, is either going to play wing or he's down on your fourth line, and you're looking pretty good up the middle. And they weren't done on actual deadline day. They turn around and they flip Casey Middlestat to Boston for Charlie Coyle. And now you look at that group up the middle, it slots out really nicely. Nathan McKinnon gets to go do his thing. Casey Middlestat was never going to be a guy that you would want to be a checking guy in the playoffs. He's supposed to produce offense. He's sort of been up and down in doing so, but he is not a defensive wizard. So you get Brock Nelson to come in and be your number 2 center, and then you flip Middlestat for Coyle, and you love Coyle in that 3 spot. He's a defensive guy. He's a big boy who can stand up to whoever might be taking that offensive zone against you. I love what Colorado has gotten done. Now, I'm not sure it was enough to hang with Dallas now, as we've talked about a couple of minutes ago. And the cruelty of this playoff format is it sure looks like those two monsters are going to play each other in the first round. Winnipeg is holding down first. Winnipeg spent a second and a fourth to go get Luke Schenn. I love Luke Schenn. I'm not spending that to go get. Prices were incredibly high for everybody. There were obviously more buyers than sellers, and so the sellers could ask whatever they want. Fucking Pittsburgh brought in Luke Schenn with Tommy Novak and just decided the next day, yeah, well, let's see what Schenn would fetch us. A second and a fourth? Are you serious? Fuck yeah, we'll do that. So I don't love what Winnipeg paid for that, but, you know, that'll help. They go get Brandon Tanev. He'll fit nice. But they didn't take the same step forward. You want to talk about Edmonton not keeping up in the West. Winnipeg, who's pretty comfortably in first, they did not do enough to keep up with that division. And if they manage to hang on to first, you know, perhaps they end up playing Minnesota in the first round, and then it's Dallas, Colorado. That is a war that should not happen in round one. But every year this happens, at least in one division, sometimes in a couple. Two teams that shouldn't play each other in the first round end up doing it. And look, it's a flaw in the playoff system, but this year, holy shit, am I here for it. Like, if you're going to guarantee me Dallas, Colorado, I'm in. Those two teams, perhaps more than anybody else during this particular deadline stretch, really did well. And they are going to fuck each other up early. As I said, we're not going to hit everywhere. We're not going to touch on every single deal that happened, but I think we do have to at least venture back into the Atlantic Division, which is going to be another spot where it won't be quite to the same degree that Dallas and Colorado is, but there are three big dogs in that division who loaded up on deadline day, and two of them are going to have to face each other in round one. Winning that division is going to be crucial. And look, it starts with Tampa a couple of days ago, and they go out and they do what they always do. They just pay whatever the hell it costs to get whatever they think they need. So they go back out and they meet an old friend in Yanni Gourde and bring him in, and they tell him, bring your buddy Oliver Bjorkstrand and he can be our Blake Coleman this year. Is it the exact same type of guy as Blake Coleman? No. Is he perfectly capable of playing on your third line and contributing that way? Yes. I didn't think there was enough in Tampa before, even though they had been incredibly hot. What are they, 10-1 here in their last bid, 11-1, something like that. Vasilevsky looks incredible again. They are right there with Toronto and Florida, all of those teams within 4 points of each other. I didn't think it was enough when it was Point and Kucherov on one line with Gensel. And then you had Cirelli and Hagel and kind of whoever you had to put on the, it just didn't look like they were quite deep enough up front. But now you bring in Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. Gourde's coming off an injury, and he's not quite what he was when he was there the last time on that awesome third line with Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, as I mentioned. But man, that all of a sudden completely turns around their depth, right? Like they suddenly look like this really formidable group. Ryan McDonough has found the fountain of youth there on that second pair with Eric Chernak. They look, and like I said, if they have Vasilevsky going again, you can beat anybody, right? Like any goaltending performance from a Vasilevsky or a Shesterkin or like that caliber, a Bobrovsky, like that caliber of goalie, if they're hot, if they're going, if your team is just marginally competent and you get one of those goaltending performances that we've all seen before, you can get through. And Tampa is now good enough to do that. I'm not sure that even with Vasilevsky having one of those performances, they would have had enough scoring punch. They do now. That was a nice bit of work to just, and again, it cost them 2 first-round picks to get that done, but it's done, and they have the players. So that was disconcerting as a Leaf fan. And then Florida, look, I don't know. I talked a little about the Seth Jones trade earlier in the week. I'm not as high on Seth Jones as a lot of people. Now, certainly when he comes down from a $9.5 million salary cap hit to a $7 million salary cap hit, like he did after Chicago ate part of his deal, it's better. And he can play some minutes, but like, I don't think that was a put you over the top kind of move. But they go out at the last possible second and bring in Brad Marchand. And again, it's not 5 years ago, 100-point Brad Marchand, but it is still playoff Brad Marchand. It is still, I hate you for 7 games, Brad Marchand. A shorthanded goal here, a power play goal there, a fucking glove in your face every time you turn around. It was, it didn't shock me that he got traded. It shocked me that he got traded there. Like, I could have seen, everyone's been calling for the Crosby to Colorado to play with McKinnon thing. That's not going to happen. But it wouldn't have shocked me if it happened for Marchand, another one of those Nova Scotia boys who does skate with them during the summer. I could have seen that. I just never would have thought that if Boston decided they were tearing this down, that they would have sent him in division. And I mentioned this a little bit in the Toronto episode that we did on Friday night. They turn around and send Brandon Carlo to the Leafs. Again, I wouldn't have expected them to send a major piece to a division rival. Now, Boston's not going to make it. They weren't going to before, but now they've traded Coyle and Carlo and Marchand. They're not going to make it. But it seems like they just decided, all right, if we're going down, we're going to turn around and vomit some of our best players around the division. Then we're going to go home for the summer and let you two kill each other. So that was pretty fascinating. Florida, like I said, Seth Jones helps an already pretty good team, but I think Brad Marchand just gives them that playoff element, right? And they already have it. They're a Stanley Cup champion. They were in the finals a year before that. Like, who the hell wants to line up across from a line of Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk, and Brad Marchand? Fuck that. The scumbag line. Like, just rats everywhere that have talent, that can score, and that are going to piss you off every single time they're on the ice. Maybe the last place we'll stop here is Boston, because I kind of appreciate what they've done here. As I said off the top of the show, I think some of these teams need to decide, are we in or are we out? And even if you're sort of there, like Vancouver, we're kind of still in it. Like, Vancouver's still in it. Vancouver could make it, but are they going anywhere? No. So make a call and decide what you are. And Boston, on Thursday night, looked like they were headed to overtime. Who knows what happens? They lose. It puts them that much further out of the playoffs. And they wake up on Friday and said, we don't have it this year. We're not going for it. And once that happened, they just started pitching shit overboard. And McAvoy's hurt. Hampus Lindholm is hurt. Like, you don't have it this year. So Charlie Coyle, you're off to Colorado. Carlo, you're off to Toronto. Marchand, our captain, you're off to Florida. If you're not in it, sell. Get as much as you can. Like, get these picks. Get these kids. Get whatever you have to get. And then hopefully, like, there's no reason that Brad Marchand can't sign back there this summer. We don't see it all that often. Like, it's one of those fanciful things that we talk about often enough as like, yeah, you just go do your thing and we'll re-sign you in the summer. Like, it's that easy. And it is that easy for a lot of these guys, but it almost never happens. But this is your captain. Maybe you couldn't work out a deal with him before the deadline. We're going to deal you to get something. Whether Marchand's in love with that or not, I don't know. But he obviously had a say in it and chose Florida. So, go play there. See if you can have some success. We're going to get the draft pick out of them, and we'll talk to you in July. Maybe he comes back as their captain. We'll see. But I think Boston, I think they had a win of a day. Like, it is a loss of a season. It's a disaster of a season. Ever since the Swayman negotiation through training camp or whatever, they never got off to a good start, and they never looked right. So we're flushing this season. We're going to get everything we can get, and we'll reassess. I like that approach more than, oh, we're only 3 points out, like we shouldn't sell. And then you just continue to walk through the muck. You don't get there, and it's a lost fucking season. Boston decided, you know what? Fuck it. We're not good enough this year. We're selling. I appreciate that. And that could not have been easy for a team like Boston. It's a very proud organization. They've been in it for a long time. They set records. They keep their guys. This was the right move, though. This was the right thing to do for Boston. As for other winners and losers, I don't know. I don't mind Chicago. They got out from under Peter Mrazek, who frankly had bounced back and refound some of his value. They trade him to Chicago. Chicago trades him to Detroit, who's always up for taking on a goaltender. And Chicago gets Joe Veleno. I don't mind that. Another guy maybe can come in, help a little bit with Bedard and what they're trying to build there longer term. I think that works okay. Columbus goes and gets Luke Cunnin. I thought they could have done a little bit more to help that group, but he's a useful enough piece, I suppose. I already talked about the things I liked and didn't like at Ottawa and Toronto, so we're not going to revisit that. Montreal decided they were basically going to stand pat. You know, I think we hit the big stories here. There were other moves, but I think we hit the big ones here, at least the ones that jumped out to me. And no doubt if there's anything I've missed that Rob wants to comment on, he's not particularly shy, and he'll bring that up when he's on the show on Monday. So a broken record I've been. 3 shows in 12 hours, just me. If you've been here for all of them, man, kudos to you. Appreciate you. If you've just checked in for 1 or 2 or some of each, that's cool too. We got time for however you want to take these down. My name is Matt Robinson. Thank you so much for listening. And make sure you're subscribed wherever you're hearing us right now. Following along on social media at TallCan Audio. We'll see you Monday.
Yo, yeah, Warriors been drinking it down. Raise your voices and stare at this town. We're the champions of craft beer and sport. Tall Can Audio, we hold down the fort. Tall Can Warriors, we drinking it down. Raise your voices and stare